Good day, my name is Kunipel Anzano, and for today we will going to tackle about the miscellaneous provisions and harbor regulations related to customs and this manual, Customs Memorandum Order Number 22 Series 2010, subject Revised Customs Port Operations Manual. So let's start. Miscellaneous provisions. Section 20. Certificate for quarantine cargo. When cargo manifested for any port in the Philippines is retained on board the importing vessel by order of the quarantine officer or any other officer authorized to issue such order, the customs inspector on board, after verifying said cargo, shall make a certificate of constructive lading as to the bill of lading. Section 21. Use of boarding watercraft. The customs senior boarding officer shall not permit anyone to go with the customs boarding watercraft upon departure from the pier except customs inspectors and customs guards duly assigned to vessels to be boarded, customs inspector and customs guards assigned by the chief base service section or its equivalent office to substitute for absent personnel, and those specially granted in writing by the Chief, Piers and Inspection Division or its equivalent office may be given the privilege to use the boarding watercraft. In Section 22, Baggage Declaration Entry. Baggage declaration properly accomplished by incoming passengers shall be presented to the customs inspector on board or to customs examiner or appraiser upon boarding of the vessel. It is required that an itemized enumeration thereon of the articles obtained abroad showing quantity and corresponding invoice price should be made in any cargo acquired abroad not so declared shall be liable to seizure and subject to the penalties of the customs law. In Section 23, vessel clearing for foreign ports applying for bunkers. The customs inspector on board of a vessel clearing for foreign ports and applying for bunkers shall require the master thereto transmit, together with his application, the usual affidavit containing the following. First, we have name and nationality of vessel. Second, amount on fuel oil available on board for its propulsion at time of entry. And third, vessel's daily consumption of oil at sea. Fourth, vessel's daily consumption of oil in port. And fifth, port of ports of call during the voyage and duration of vessel's stay at each port. And lastly, the amount of bunkers applied for. Section 24. Unloading of cargo by distressed vessel. A distressed vessel in port desiring to unload cargo for duration of the vessel's sojourn thereat may be issued a permit to discharge her cargo upon written request of the master of agent, approved by the collector of customs under such terms and conditions he may deem proper. If the cargo's discharge will be cleared or entered in the port where they are discharged, the unloading of this class of cargo shall be subject to the same rules and regulations prescribed for cargoes destined for the port, unless authorized by a shipside discharge permit. Such cargoes shall be discharged unto the pier. If discharged into lighter, such lighters must be of the close type and must be secured locked and sealed with customs seal and must remain under guard until final disposition thereof made. Section 25. Ship's mail. Ship's mail shall be examined as they are being towed from the ship, and all mails addressed to persons other than the agents of the vessel shall be delivered to the mail clerk. Any dutiable articles or merchandise other than mail found in the mail bag shall be subject to duties, taxes, or seizure. Section 26. Laborers and ship's laundry. All stevedores, laborers, and other persons of similar status shall be thoroughly searched by or under the immediate supervision of the customs inspector on board upon their leaving the vessel, and such person found with pilfered articles or those not authorized for discharge in his person shall be arrested. For bundles of clothing, ship's linen or laundry, or etc., which are to be taken ashore for laundry, a list shall be prepared by the inspector who shall check them against such list upon their return on board so that the corresponding duties and/or taxes may be assessed and collected on those unaccounted for before the vessel sails. Section 27. Seizures. The customs inspector or customs guard making the seizure shall deliver to the owner or the claimant, and if unclaimed, to the master of the vessel, a receipt describing the articles seized. He shall forward immediately the articles seized together with the seizure report and transfer note to the Chief Pierce and Inspection Division or its equivalent office. Section 28. Arrest. Upon searching a vessel or any person on board thereof, the customs inspector or customs guard on board is authorized and required to search, arrest, and even detain, conformably with law, any person found committing act or acts contrary to law. When a person is apprehended under such circumstances, the customs inspector on board shall conduct an informal investigation, after termination whereof the person arrested together with the evidence shall be turned over to the Enforcement and Security Service, or ESS, for appropriate action. A report in detail showing the name of the person arrested, the reason for the arrest, and action taken shall be submitted without delay to the Chief Pierce and Inspection Division or its equivalent office. Section 29. Small boats alongside vessels. Small boats authorized by the PPA to engage in ferry services may be permitted to come alongside the vessel. A customs guard shall be stationed at all times while a small boat, launch, or any water craft is alongside, and it shall be thoroughly searched before being permitted to depart. Section 30. Customs guards for vessels lying alongside. A customs guard shall be detailed by the customs inspector on board of a vessel when another vessel is lying alongside, whose duty shall be to see that no contraband articles or merchandise is passed from one vessel to another. This duty shall be arranged in rotation so that the vessel will be under continual surveillance until its departure. Section 31. Heaving anchor and sail. Upon receipt of a notice of clearance, the customs inspector on board shall allow the vessel to heave anchor and sail. But if, for any reason, the ship does not leave and remains in port for more than 48 hours after the time of departure indicated in the clearance. The Master of Agents shall be required to secure from the Customs Clearance Office and an extension of time for departure, without which the original clearance shall be of no force or effect. Section 32. Repair of vessel equipment. Upon the filling of a bond or underground, or Section 105 of the Tariff and Customs Code of the Philippines as amended, guaranteeing their re-exportation and approved by the Collector of Customs, the landing of sails, casks, chronometers and other portions of the vessel's equipment for the purpose of having them repaired shall be permitted. The customs inspector shall describe the articles or equipment so released in sufficient detail to enable easy and ready identification upon the return. In Section 33, Conversion of Vessel Status. A. From foreign to coastwise. Vessels of foreign status may be converted to a coastwise status after the following requirements are fully complied with and submitted to the Collector of Customs through the Customs Clearance Officer as prerequisite to the issuance of clearance. First, certification from the concerned office of the Bureau that import entry had been filled and duties and taxes had been paid and/or secured to be paid. Second, certification of conversion issued by the Maritime Industry Authority. And third, certification from the Chief Piers and Inspection Division and Chief Bay Service Section or their equivalent offices with the Enforcement and Security Service or ESS as a member of the searching team that the vessel has been fully searched for contraband cargoes, indicating therein the results of the searching mission. And fourth, certification from the shipping agencies attested by the customs inspector on board that all foreign cargoes are fully discharged from the vessel. And lastly, inventory list of ships, stores and salons and crew declaration list shall be duly accomplished, signed by the master of the vessel, and are attested by the customs inspector on board. B. From coastwise to foreign. Vessels of coastwise status may be converted to a foreign status subject to the following requirements. First, certificate of conversion issued by the Maritime Industry Authority, and second, duly processed export declarations or permits. In Section 34, Letters to Collector. The Customs Senior Boarding Officer shall collect all letters in the vessel's possession addressed to the Collector of Customs and transmit them without delay to the Customs House. Section 35. Refuse and Garbage. No refuse, garbage, and the like shall be thrown or jettisoned inside any harbor, more especially while the ship is alongside piers. All damaged and rotten cargoes shall be disposed of upon arrangement and permission of the Collector of Customs and at the area designated by said official or duly authorized representative after consultation with the Philippine Coast Guard and/or the Department of Environment and Natural Resources or DENR. Master of vessels desiring to load or discharge ballast shall first obtain permission from the Collector of Customs or Surveyor of the port and shall obey the instruction given them by the harbor master as to where the ballast shall be taken from a discharge as the case may be. Section 36. Firearms Care and Use. Care should be exercised in the use of firearms. the unnecessary display of firearms is prohibited. An employee should remember that the law will hold him personally responsible for the results of the use of firearms by him. A weapon should not be drawn or used except in self-defense or to prevent the commission of felony. While it is not intended that an officer or employee should jeopardize his own life or the life of an associate when danger there, therein, it is intended that extreme caution and cool deliberation control his action. Officers and employees shall not be permitted to carry firearms while on duty until they have been thoroughly instructed in the proper care and use of such weapons. All firearms will be inspected by the Chief Peers and Inspection Division or its equivalent office periodically to see that they are fit in condition for proper use. Section 37 Instructions relative to discharging, withdrawal, and loading of empty container. First, discharging of empty containers. The shipping agent, prior to the discharge of empty container, shall furnish the Customs Container Control Division or its equivalent office a copy of the approved sequence of discharge and a separate listing of empty containers to be discharged from the carrying vessel for monitoring and aging purposes. Second, withdrawal of empty containers. The shipping agent concerned shall present a letter request to the Chief Customs Container Control Division or its equivalent office for withdrawal of empty container from the pier. Once approved, the Deputy Collector for Operations, the Chief Enforcement Security Service or ESS, and the Chief Peers and Inspection Division shall be furnished copies of the request and the permit to withdraw issued. The original copy of the approved request with the withdrawal permit shall be forwarded to the wharfinger in charge for the issuance of the gate pass. The customs gatekeepers and customs ESS personnel assigned at the exit gates shall be required to open all empty containers to verify whether they are indeed empty and shall keep records of the approved requests or permits issued and report any discrepancy to their respective chiefs of offices. And third, loading of empty containers. Prior to the loading of empty containers on board carrying vessel, the shipping agent concerned shall apply for a special permit to load or SPL in a letter application made for the purpose at the Customs Container Control Division or its equivalent office. It shall be the responsibility of the Customs Container Control Division to physically inspect every empty container brought into or unloaded onto the port and to verify if indeed the same is empty as represented by the concerned parties. The empty containers shall be inspected upon the arrival into or after their unloading onto the port and not when these empty containers are being loaded into the carrying vessel. For this purpose, the Chief Customs Container Control Division or its equivalent office shall coordinate with the concerned shipping agent and the arrestee operator for the segregation of these empty containers and for their inspection while in the port. In approving the authority to load empty containers, the Chief Customs Container Control Division shall ensure that the empty containers specified therein have already been duly inspected. Accordingly, the approval of the authority to load is also his confirmation that the customs container Control Division has conducted the required inspection and that the containers covered by such authority have been verified to be empty indeed. Section 38 Instructions relative to the withdrawal of shut-out containerized export. First, withdrawal of shut-out containerized export cargoes. All application for the withdrawal of shut-out containerized export cargoes shall be directly filed with a chief CCCD or its equivalent office. Spot checking the contents of the subject containers shall no longer be required, but instead the following precautionary measures shall be undertaken. First, the application to withdraw shut-out containerized export cargoes shall be accompanied at all times by the following: certificate of the shipping agent concerned, attesting to such fact, an equipment interchange receipt or EIR, and a copy of export declaration or permit or inquiry. The spot checking shall be confined only to determine whether the original shipping agent seal affects after the stuffing operations is intact. In case of the containerized export cargoes or deliveries from a CBW, which fact shall be indicated in the application, the same shall not be withdrawn unless accompanied by a customs guard who shall guard the same until the shipment is received by the assigned customs warehouseman or customs storekeeper at the CBW. For this purpose, the Chief Customs Container Control Division shall coordinate with the Chief Bonded Warehouse Operating Division concerned for the undergirding requirements. In case the particular CBW is not indicated in the application, the Chief Customs Container Control Division shall have also a complete file of all active CBWs and accredited members obtained from each CBW operating division for reference purposes. Section 39 Shifting of Cargoes. Shipping agent shall submit a written request for shifting of cargoes to the Office of the Chief, Pierce and Inspection Division or its equivalent office, which in turn shall recommend its approval to the Deputy Collector of Operations. Section 40 Deveining, Stripping and Stuffing. Consignee shall submit a written request for deveining, stripping and stuffing to the Office of the Chief, Pierce and Inspection Division or its equivalent office, which in turn shall recommend its approval to the Deputy Collector for Operations. Section 41 Direct-to-Truck Transfer. For direct transfer of container or cargo from vessel to truck, consignee or customs broker shall submit a written request to the Office of the Chief, Pierce and Inspection Division, which in turn shall recommend its approval to the Deputy Collector for Operations. Section 42 Overtime Permit. All requests for overtime work by Pierce and Inspection Division or its equivalent office personnel other than those regular activities mentioned in this manual shall be recommended by the Chief, Pierce and Inspection Division or its equivalent office and approved by the Deputy Collector for Operations. Section 43 Discharging of Vessel Sludge. All requests for discharging of vessel sludge shall be recommended by the Chief, Pierce and Inspection Division or its equivalent office and approved by the Deputy Collector for Operations. Sample of sludge shall be taken by the customs examiner from formal entry division or its equivalent office for examination purposes. Section 44, Bunkering Permit. All requests for vessel bunkering or refueling shall be recommended for approval by the Chief Gears and Inspection Division or its equivalent office to the Chief Port Operations Service (AOCG). Section 45, Leisure or Racing Yacht. The boarding formalities shall as far as practicable apply to leisure crafts, yachts, foreign fishing vessels, and local fishing vessels from abroad. This provision shall include all vessels arriving in the country that are participants of regattas or similar competitions. During boarding formalities, the masters or owner of the yacht, other similar vessel shall manifest or state its intention or purpose of its journey in the Philippines. He must indicate if its voyage is for pleasure or indicate intended period of stay in the Philippines, conversion from foreign to coastwise, payment of duties and taxes, or conduct of business in the Philippines. And now let's proceed to harbor regulations related to customs. Vessel entering port. All vessels entering any port of entry or coastwise in the Philippines shall show their colors and signal their official numbers or letters, and such signals shall be kept flying till the vessel is boarded by the proper officials. All vessels within 2 miles before arriving at designated quarantine anchorage shall display their aforementioned signals. And second, when mail is to be discharged, the vessel shall inform the port authorities by the prescribed signal at the earliest opportunity. Flag signals or calls. At the Philippine ports of entry, signals will be responded to and from the customs house or pilot signal tower. And the following signals or calls shall be used in all Philippine ports of entry. Customs. International code flags E and C. At night, 3 or 4 short blasts of whistle and waving of a light. Quarantine. International code flag Q at the fore. Pilot. International code flag G or PT at night. The pyrotechnic light, commonly known as a blue light every 15 minutes. A bright white light flash or shown at short frequent intervals just above the hull for about a minute at a time, or the international code signal PT by flashing light. Explosives or inflammables. International code flag B at the fore. Medical assistance. International code flag or customs call. Contagious or infectious disease. International code flags EZQ. Death, customs and quarantine calls or international code flags ENL. And distress by day, international code flags NC or gun or other explosive signals fired at intervals or of about a minute, or the distress signals consisting of a square flag having either above or below it a ball or anything resembling a ball at night, a gun or other explosive signal fired at intervals or about a minute, and flames of the on the vessel, or as from a burning tar barrel or oil barrel, etc., and rockets or shields, throwing stars of any color or description fired one at a time at short intervals. Male International Code Flag Y, Waterboat International Code Flags RC or FU, PIDESS, Customs Call, Harbor Master International Code Flags IY, GYT, Maneuvering International Code Flag B at night. Quarantine requirements: death, illness, or accidents involving physical to any person on board a vessel in a harbor shall be at once reported to the Collector of Customs and the quarantine officer. On repair or dry docking of vessels, no repairs except minor ones shall be allowed on any vessel in a port without the permission of the Collector of Customs or the Deputy Collector for operations, as well as its transfer to the designated place of dry docking, and shall be subject to continuous underguarding until final clearance. For dry docking, the following documents are required: searching and inventory report, approval from the Office of the Deputy Collector for Operations, certification from the contractor or scope of work and duration for repair, and sunken vessel. Whenever the navigation of any harbor or navigable river tributary thereto shall be obstructed by any sunken vessel, boat, watercraft, or other similar obstruction that has existed for a period longer than 30 days, or whenever abandonment can be established in a less space of time, the sunken vessel, boat, watercraft, or other obstruction may be broken up, removed, sold, or otherwise disposed of by the Collector of Customs, in his discretion at the expenses of the owner, provided, however, that if the navigation of a waterway is prevented or seriously endangered by any obstructions, the Collector of Customs may cause its removal immediately and before the expiration of 30 days at the expense of the owner thereof. Lighters or tugs and other watercraft. Lighters shall not be tied nor removed from alongside a vessel without permission of the customs inspector on board such vessel, and police authority performed by the customs officers. First, customs officers have the power to arrest within harbor limits regulations and persons committing crimes or breaches of the peace. Such arrests shall be reported without delay to their superior officer. And second, any person who assaults, resists, opposes, or interferes in any manner with a customs officer in the discharge of his duty shall be liable and subject to the penalties prescribed by law. Rat, rat guards. When any vessel either of foreign or Philippines registry is at any dock, pier, wharf, quay, or bulkhead, such vessel shall take proper precautions to prevent the passage of rodents to or from the vessel. And second, the master of any vessel of foreign registry of Philippines registry engaged in foreign trade, whether lying alongside a pier, dock, quay, wharf, or bulkhead, or in the stream. Third, no cargo shall be discharged from or received on board a vessel lying alongside a pier, wharf, quay, dock, or bulkhead, or in the stream before suitable rat guards have been placed on all the lines loading from the carriers to the vessel and from the vessel to the pier, wharf, quay, dock, or bulk, except in the case of coastwise vessels handling coastwise cargo or from barge, lighters, or other carriers, or from barges, lighters, or other carriers when the rat guard requirement on lines between vessel and carrier may be dispensed with. Other special anchorage. Likewise, all other boats and watercrafts are prohibited to anchor or to linger around any vessel whether moored at a pier or anchored in the harbor at a distance of fewer than 15 meters from said vessel unless specially authorized by the Collector of Customs. And specific regulations, no empty lighters or carriers shall lie at night alongside a Philippine government pier or alongside a vessel moored thereto. Nor shall empty lighters or carriers be attached to such pier or vessel by cables or ropes for attached to loaded or partly loaded carriers which may be alongside for fastened to such pier or vessel. Empty lighters or carriers alongside or attached to such pier or vessel during daytime shall be removed therefrom before nightfall, and the provisions contained in paragraphs 1 and 2 above hereof shall not apply to carriers partially laden with import or export cargo or to empty carriers that may have been prepared. And lastly, in any vessel or other watercraft in the Philippines harbor shall when a case of sickness occurs on board, immediately hoist the regulations quarantine flag or yellow and keep the same flying until boarded and passed upon by an inspector of the quarantine bureau, and the flag shall be of sufficient size and so placed as to be plainly visible. And that's all. Thank you.